Hello, my name is Dr. Allie Baumgartner, and I am the Paleontology Collections Manager here at the Sternberg Museum of Natural History. And today, I'm going to be talking to you about one of my favorite fossil sites, Scotty's Palms. So I'm going to tell you how it was discovered and how helpful it is for our understanding of the Earth that we live on. So, in the late 1980s, the former curator of paleobotany and the herbarium was a distinguished visiting professor at the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. So he was living in Colorado Springs with his family. And one day, he was going on a walk with his family, and they were walking along this creek on the campus of the U.S. Air Force Academy. And his son, Scott, found some really interesting fossils. So, over time, they were able to get permission and funding to excavate at the locality that is now known as Scotty's Palms. You probably suspect that, based on the name, Scotty found some fossil palms, and you would be correct. This locality is absolutely riddled with fossil palms, and I'll show you some of those in a second. So, how do you deal with something like this? How do you excavate this? Well, like Professor and Dr. Peter Wilf at Penn State University says, you can't get big leaves out of small rocks. And so it took some heavy-duty excavation in order to get out some of these leaves, especially the palms. Some of the palm leaves are basically the size of me, which means that we had to get creative. I say we. This was before my time. Scientists had to get very creative to excavate them. So excavation had happened at this locality in 1992 and 93. So what did they find? Like I said, lots of palms. But they also found a lot of other leaves. They found mostly angiosperms, so the flowering plants that we see around us today, as well as some ferns, and then obviously the palms. The leaves were very, very large. Like you can see on some of these, that these are basically dinner plate sized leaves. Some of them were as small as popcorn kernels, but most of them were pretty large size. If you saw the video on how we can understand temperature and precipitation based on fossil leaves, watch that video if you haven't already, we can get a sense of what the temperature and precipitation was like at this locality based on these leaves. So the site is from the early Paleocene, so basically right after the extinction that killed off the dinosaurs and basically changed the world and made it into the one that we know today. So it's a roughly 66 million year old site, and it is a straight up tropical rainforest in what today is Colorado. So very different from the types of plants that you would see in that part of the country today. It was roughly 22 degrees Celsius, so that's about 70 degrees Fahrenheit as the mean annual temperature. So again, much warmer than you would expect for that part of Colorado today. It also had a lot of precipitation, which you can tell by both the shape of the leaves, they tend to be longer with a drip tip, and also the size of the leaves. Plants lose moisture through their leaves, so they want them to be as large as they can be to maximize photosynthesis, but not too large that they're going to be losing water. But if you got a whole lot of water all around you, then you can afford to lose a little bit through evapotranspiration. I keep talking about the palms. The palms are probably one of the coolest things from this site. So if you've ever seen a fossil leaf like the one I've shown you, they're flat, right? Their leaves from most angiosperms are flat, they're pressed flat, they're very flat fossils, they come out in blocks. That is not the case with palms. So you can kind of see from this specimen that I have here, so this is a pressed modern palm, that it's got this kind of ribbing here. It's got this kind of folded texture to it. This one has been pressed flat so that it has been preserved, but living palms tend to have almost like a folded fan texture. And we see that in the fossil record. When you find fossil palms, they have this cool folded texture, and that makes them really easy to identify. Currently, we have a lot of our Scotty's Palms material on loan to the Denver Museum. They also have additional collections, given that they are closer to Colorado Springs and it's a little bit easier for them. So this is an active area of research. We're learning so much about the recovery right after the extinction at the KPG, so that killed off the non-avian dinosaurs. And by looking at how quickly tropical rainforests were able to come back to an area that really wasn't that far away from the impact is really interesting and can help us understand renewal and recovery today. So, Scotty's Palms, probably one of my favorite fossil localities, and I hope that you enjoyed it too. Like I said, if you haven't seen the video on how we use fossil leaves to understand paleoclimate, I would recommend checking it out. It's a very good complement to this one. If you like what you saw, like this video, subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll have another one in 2 weeks. Thanks, bye.
Thanks for joining us in A New Way to Museum with the Sternberg Museum of Natural History. If you enjoyed this video, like it and subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell for notifications when we release a new video. Support us on Patreon for early access and exclusive content. You can also follow us on all our social media. Links are found in the description. Thanks for watching, and follow your curiosity to new discoveries.